Hey, Denise.
Hi, Amy.
I love that we've been saying, I love that we're saying hello to each other, since we've been together for the past 24 hours here in Scottsdale. Look how beautiful Scottsdale is, guys. The inside of this beautiful recording studio.
Yes, that's right, everyone. We are back for season 3, and Amy and I finally took our podcation. That's right. We are podcasting and also calling it a girls' vacation. We wanted to do this and talked about this since season 1. So we are actually recording together. This is a first. Zoom took a back seat this year, and we are an official podcast studio in beautiful Scottsdale, Arizona.
We've been having a great 24 hours so far together. We had a lovely meal. We've done a lot of walking, a little shopping. It's perfect for us, and working, because in true Amy and Denise fashion, right? We were not ready to go for today, but that's okay. We're ready.
We're ready in our excitement and in our content. We just had to get a little bit more organized so we could give the best information to you. But let's catch up, because we've got a whole series we're recording, but we want to get, we feel like we haven't caught up with our listeners. So many people ran into us like over the last 9 months and said, when's the podcast? What's happening? And we really didn't know if we were going to continue on. So we're really here today on this podcation after a lot of thought and consideration and intention, right? In terms of where we wanted to go with this and how much we did really enjoy it and how much we missed it. So
that we did.
Yeah, we used to. If you've been with us a couple seasons or listened before, we used to do what we called the midlife moment, where we just caught up and it was casual before we got to the content or our topic. But this season we're doing a little different, and so we're not going to do those midlife moments in episode, but we are going to catch up a little bit today. So Amy, tell us what you've been doing the last 9 months. We last went out to our listeners in June 2023, and here we are in March of 2024. And so tell us, what have you been up to?
Well, I've been super busy, and not busy as in busy in a bad way. We had an episode about that last season, I think, or the first season. One of their seasons, we had an episode about being busy, or the glorification of busy. That was what it was called. But I truly have been super busy. But the thing I wanted to talk about, my midlife moment for today, was that last summer we sent, Mike and I sent our son to overnight camp for the first time. And it was something that I did as a kid for 6 summers. I went to overnight camp. It was the time of my life. And so we were excited to be able to offer the same experience to Caleb if he was interested in taking advantage of that. And he did. And the best part about that was, Caleb went to camp, Mike and I got an amazing vacation through Europe. But the midlife moment for me really came that first couple of days after we put him on the bus to go to camp. And, now they actually send you pictures every day. They will upload all of these pictures to, some site, and you could see and look through all these pictures to see your kid. And so for the first couple of days, we did not see any pictures of Caleb. And I'm like, is he alive? How is he doing? And the director of the camp was like, text me anytime. And here's Mike and I getting on a plane to go fly to Ireland, and I have no idea, is he okay? Has he showered? Has he done anything? He's clearly not written to us. And I had a neighbor that was going to be checking our mail. But anyways, when I got back, or actually, I don't even think before I got back, I think I had texted my mother, and I was like, I don't know how you did this. I don't know how you sent me to camp.
Yeah,
and
same.
There was no pictures, right? At that point, they weren't sending pictures home. So you really had to wait for the snail mail to come. And and by the way, Caleb wrote me 1 letter. So my lovely neighbor who kept checking our mailbox the entire 2 weeks that we were gone, she was so excited to get the letter, and she got to open one piece of mail from him. So I did. I went back to my mother and I said, I'm so sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. I don't know how you did it. 6 years not knowing what your kid was up to, because again, it was only letters. And what I had to do when I was at camp, I remember this, is I had to write a letter in order to get into dinner. So instead of actually taking the time to write a letter to get into dinner,
organizers.
Right? Instead of taking that time to write the letter to get into dinner, that's what I wrote on my letter. Dear Mom and Dad, I had to write this letter to get into dinner. Peace.
Yeah.
Dropped it in the mail. So anyways, that was my like full circle, like, oh, yep, this is coming back to haunt me now. You're welcome.
But now remind me, was this the same camp you went to as a kid?
No, it was not the same camp.
Okay.
This was all boys, very like not like sports camp, but it was all like really all sports. It's totally up Caleb's alley. So, but he survived and loved it.
Aw, I know they do. Like, yeah, my daughter's been to summer camp 2 years in a row. She goes to the same summer camp that I went to, and this year, true like midlife moment actually is that I'm on the camp committee now, the organizing committee, because I just wanted to give back because it gave me so many memories, and now it gives Ella so many memories. And my son wants to go. He's actually started talking about it. So my kids go to like a Armenian church camp up in the Sierras above Fresno, where I'm from. But so shout out to High Camp for anyone who's listening. You probably went to High Camp because I have a lot of friends and memories from there. I even was a counselor 1 year, but camp is good time. So
camp is good time.
You're good in sending him there.
Yeah, it teaches them a lot. There's like a lot of good like independent skills that they learn, and the best part is they are off of screens for 30 days. Right? There's
30 days.
No
I mean, that's serious.
It's
camp.
a detox, guys.
Yeah, like 7 days. Like Ella's camp is 7 days, and I'm really at the max. Like, I even think I'm not that like, helicopter-ish. But 7 days is a lot of times without getting any contact. And don't feel so bad. Ella, her second year of camp, maybe she wrote us once, and we begged her. And she's a girl too, so
Right, you would think, yeah. Like I had the fill in the blank stationery. I actually taught him how to because they don't teach that at school, guys. If you're an educator, please teach the kids how to address an envelope. They don't teach that anymore. But I had to teach him how to write a letter, where to put the address, stamp,
put it in your mailbox.
Put
it in your mailbox.
Put it in your mailbox.
Put it in your midlife mailbox.
What about you, Denyse? What have you been doing?
All good things too. I mean, last season, I think you heard a lot about me being in that sandwich generation, right? Feeling like being in the meat between two different dependent situations. But the good news is that my kids are thriving and doing well, and keeping me extra busy, which is a blessing. And my parents and my dad specifically last season, I shared my dad went through open heart surgery, and he's doing so much better, and he's great. I mean, he's actually able to live a very normal life, and so feeling very fortunate about that. So since then, I've been doing some traveling as well, kind of kicking up the travel again. And what I wanted to talk about in terms of midlife moment was the ability, I'm getting more comfortable with spending time with myself.
Oh, it's so important.
Right. And I think Amy and I have confessed we are, you can tell we're extroverted. I get my energy from people. That's why I'm a career coach. I love helping people find their careers and find their passions. But I also love to be social and connect with people, and especially on vacation or out of town.
We have met a lot of people in the 24 hours.
Oh, yeah. I know. Amy makes me look introverted, by the way. I'm pretty silent here. But anyway, here nor there. In June, right after we wrapped season 3, I joined Chris.
Season 2.
Oh, sorry, excuse me. Season 2. I joined Chris, my husband Chris, on a business trip. He was working for Pfizer at the time, and their headquarters were in New York City. So I just tagged along. He always tells me to tag along, but it depends on what I'm doing or whatnot. And my parents gave me the opportunity to go. They said, we'll watch the kids. So I went to New York with him. He had to work the whole entire time. I think I saw him for 2 meals or 3 meals. Poor guy was working the whole time. But I was playing all by myself. I got up one morning. I walked 20,000 steps. I walked the High Line in New York City.
Amazing.
I have a girlfriend who goes to New York once a month for work, and so she gave me all the places to eat. Pastis, I went here, I did this in Soho, I shopped, and I went to have oysters on a boat in the middle of the bay. It was awesome. And everyone kept asking me, a lot of people kept asking me, you're by yourself? You just did this all by yourself? And I said, yeah, I had the best time. I wasn't lonely. And I didn't care that I was by myself. And maybe 25-year-old Denyse, we talk about different versions of ourselves, but 25-year-old Denyse might not have thought that would be interesting enough to leave her kids for. But 46-year-old Denyse thought it was enough. And so I did, and I had the greatest time. I did see people. I mean, I did end up running in with an old boss, Laura Del Greco, who's a mentor of mine, had dinner. She lives out there. I also ran into my cousins in New Jersey, but for the most part, I was solo and loving it. I went and saw a Broadway show by myself. I saw Funny Girl. Saw Funny Girl with Leah Michelle. Rode the subway. I took a little carriage ride, or not carriage ride, one of those electric scooter rides through Central Park. I mean, I've been to New York, but I hadn't been in a while, so
You really lived it up.
I know, I had a good time. So I'm getting more comfortable doing that, those kind of things. I'm going with my husband again to Europe in 2 months, and I will also be largely by myself, and I'm okay with that. I like it a little bit. I mean, I don't always want to be by myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's fun because sometimes you could do things that maybe your spouse doesn't, is not as interested in. You can peruse the boutiques and the shop, and you could just do things at your leisure. The other day I had to go to Target, and I had to pick up a few things, and I just put my earbud in, and I was listening to a book on my Audible, and I was just cruising Target alone. And the next thing I know, I'm oh, it's time to go. I don't even know what I had in my cart, but it was just really nice. Just being able to spend just some adult time by yourself.
And I think at least for us, some people, thrive off that alone time. I have friends and, other people who really need that time to recharge. That's generally the opposite for me. However, I do feel that midlife is a time, at least for myself, when I'm mature enough, feeling confident enough in myself and who I am, that yes, going and walking around New York City, not just from a safety standpoint. I mean, that's another thing. But just from a self-confidence, and yes, I can go have lunch by myself, and I can go see a Broadway show by myself, and I'll strike up conversation with someone behind me or to the side of me. But in general, I am there by myself without any comfort zone, and it's okay, and it's actually enjoyable. I felt refreshed coming home from that trip, even though usually New York is pretty stimulating and overstimulating.
Yeah. Well, I even think about just coming here to Scottsdale, Mike dropped me off at the airport, but then we had to figure out how are we getting from the airport to the hotel, and what are we doing around, from our hotel? Are we walking? We met up with this great Scottsdale who takes us in a little golf cart to our dinner last night. But you have to figure that out. Whereas if I was with Mike, I would be reliant on him to take that. But I know that I am just as capable of being able to and do
everything else.
So let's talk about it. So when we talked about starting our podcast over 3 years ago, really we set it off as a big passion project for us, just like our travel and our children. And we had no idea the reach our show would have. We always joke that we just thought our moms would listen, so shout out to those lovely ladies in our life.
Linda and Madeline.
Yep, we love you. But our moms have not just been the only people listening, and which was really humbling, and gave us the courage to continue to push forward and to put together this next season. And so thousands of downloads later, here we are. We're in a really cool space in Scottsdale, this awesome recording studio, which is super different from us, from getting away from the Zoom. And, we're so excited to present what we've put together for this third season. So this is really a baby of yours. So why don't you talk about how we kind of came up with our topic for this season, and we'll go from
I mean, where we left off, everyone, in June was Amy and I were loving the podcast, but it was a huge undertaking, especially with all the wonderful guests we met last season. And we thought, well, what's next, right? What can we realistically do, given we're both building our businesses? And so we did really take a hard pause, because I was trying to prepare for a speaking opportunity that I was selected for up in Fresno, California, for the Central California Women's Conference.
It's amazing.
I submitted on that. That was a goal of mine. It was a bucket list. I had a colleague and a former guest, a friend, a family friend and a former guest, Gia Kazarian, on the show last season, who had done it back in 2019, and it was always something I wanted to do as well. And so, Gia encouraged me, why don't you submit this year? I think you're ready. And so I thought, well, sure, I'll apply. I'm sure I won't get selected. And next thing you know, it was actually in May, and they let me know that I was going to be a panel speaker or a breakout speaker. And I was so excited to do that, not only for the opportunity to become a speaker at a large conference. There's about average of 3,000 women in attendance in Fresno. But then a cherry on top was that when they announced the keynote, it was Brooke Shields, the famous model, actress, author, podcaster herself. And so it just made it even more exciting because I was going to be able to do it in my hometown, in front of my family, my friends. My husband Chris even came for literally the speaking engagement and rushed back to take care of our children. But it was just an awesome experience. And that topic, and that's kind of why we're here today, really was I spoke on lights, camera, action, how to become 5 ways to become the Maven of your midlife. And that was really a culmination of content that are, just of learnings and observations and episodes and things that we've covered here in the podcast. So thank you, listeners, for allowing us this forum. So Midlife at the Mailbox was a huge content source, but as well, my coaching clients were also a major source, and just, my observation and experience in midlife. So I packaged this all up into 5 steps that I felt were repeatable and could be emulated for others, and really incorporated my coaching practices. And so that's really, and then Amy came to me and said, I've got it for season 3. We're not going to recreate the wheel. We are going to focus back to the basics on what we love talking about, which is midlife, and the two of us, and let's just use your content and expand on it and make it podcastable. Right. And I said, you know what? You're not wrong. All right, let's do this. And so it's taken us a couple months to get to this point, but this is where we are. I'm really focused this year on building my business and my practice, and really, generating a lot of more midlife-centered focus or content, because I've really found that midlife people are my people. That's my niche. That's my
mine too.
That's my core audience. So that's where we are. And so we're really excited to share these 5 steps with you, along with anecdotes along the way. But we're kind of getting out all of our updates here so that we can really focus on, the steps.
And the content. And so, really for season 3, we want you to become that Maven of your midlife. And whether you're 40 or in your 40s or your 50s or your 60s or your 70s or whatever age, really the information is very relevant to to anybody. So even if you're younger and you stumble across us, or older than the range that I just gave out, we all aspire for something bigger and greater than ourselves, and we want to give you the courage to be able to go out and to find it. And you could be sitting here in Phoenix or in Scottsdale, recording a podcast, because that was something that was a passion project of ours, and unbeknownst to us, a passion project of ours, and it's really turned into, something really fabulous.
Yeah, and I'm even, from one of my own clients, I'm helping produce and help him with his podcast. So it's awesome. And just to kind of level set to what is midlife for everyone, if you're new here, or you might want to think, well, am I in midlife, am I not? In general, midlife can be as long as starting at age 35 all the way to 75. I think that's a little broad, but I think the average midlife person is or the average span is 40 years to 65 years old in general. And a Maven, if you might not know what a Maven is a person with a good knowledge or understanding of a subject, an expert or a connoisseur. So,
remember,
for example,
always being 1% smarter.
Yes. And, for example, Simone Biles, she's a Maven of gymnastics, or Julia Child was considered a Maven of culinary arts, right? So our goal here is not to advise you, and we also are not experts on midlife, or we're not Mavens of midlife itself, but we want you to be a maven of your midlife. And that's what we're really trying to impart on everyone here in this season.
So grab your notepad and come back next week and tune in so that you can learn how to be a maven in your midlife.
Thanks, everyone. Can't wait.